Hey, Brent Porcio, TopVelocity.net. This is the @TopVelocity hashtag pitching tips show version 2. If you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch last season, like 7 years ago. A bunch of episodes from the version 1 season. Now this is season 2, so we're pretty excited. If you haven't, send us a question. We need more questions, so post them at the bottom of the video. Subscribe, like, share this, help get it out there. We love answering questions and helping you guys out, so please give us some questions, send it to us. All right, first question of the day we got. Do you feel that retraction of the elbow helps delay the upper torso, helping also staying closed longer versus a very long, loopy, disconnected hand? So what I'm hearing is he's talking about scap loading. Does scap loading help the trunk delay? Which we know, studies show we want to delay the trunk, meaning at front foot strike, we want to be in a completely closed, even counter-rotated upper torso position to increase our runway to accelerate forces to the ball. When I say increase the runway, I'm talking like a jet. A longer runway for a jet gives them more time to accelerate. So landing close or delaying the trunk increases that. So he's saying, does scap loading, pinching that scap, does that help delay the trunk? Yeah, it can, but the problem is your trunk's way more powerful than your arm. So even if you're trying to pinch your scap as hard as you can, if your trunk is flying, it ultimately is going to cause more problems than not. So what really delays the trunk is keeping a little contralateral, because when we go, which is glove side, when we go ipsilateral, everything wants to kind of go early. So contralateral helps, and being very explosive with your back hip to drive your back hip ahead of your trunk quick enough to where your trunk doesn't want to go too early. But this does help. Loading the scap does help. But at the end of the day, what does loading the scap really do? It's not so much helping trunk delay, but it allows more trunk rotation. That's what the movement is. That's why we load the scap. For example, if I had just cocked my arm right here, say I'm throwing that way, if I had cocked my arm, my elbow and shoulder together, I'm not scap loaded, and my arm was up, when I went to turn, my elbow would lead, or my elbow would get ahead early and cut off my trunk rotation. But if I say cocked with some scap loading, you see the L behind my back to here? Then when I turn, I have a little delay in my arm, so now my trunk can go through full rotation before release. So basically pulling the elbow behind the back into the cock position allows some time for the trunk to get fully into rotation. So this movement, the horizontal abduction or scap loading movement, allows the trunk to rotate. That's the real true function of it, but it also can help you kind of hold the shoulders back a little bit, but not really the best when it comes to that responsibility. So really think of it as the trunk rotator. It allows the trunk to rotate before the arm goes, because you're trying to get the arm to go as late as possible. The other one, when the arm lays back, that's what allows the trunk to go farther forward. So if I didn't lay the arm back and I just went to throw, my arm would cut off the trunk going forward. But if it lays back, now the trunk can go farther forward. All this is critical because studies show 86% of the energy that's in the ball at release came from the trunk. So the more time to accelerate through rotation and through forward trunk means potentially more energy you're getting to the ball. And if most of the energy getting the ball comes from the trunk, that's a big benefit and a big increase in velocity and ultimately reduction in arm stress, because now your arm doesn't have to create that energy. So that's a really good question. Next question, how do I get rid of bicep pain every time I throw? It starts throbbing. I'm a pitcher. I get this question all the time, guys. It's probably the most common wear and tear issue is this bicep, typically down here. If you're getting it up here, it's a little bit different biomechanical issue, but it's still bicep. Even if it's in the shoulder, it's still probably bicep pain. So biceps get worn out because it's a decelerator. When the arm comes through into internal rotation, it helps prevent the elbow from wanting to fly off, and it helps pull it around with your body too. So the bicep takes a beating. So there's always 3 ways to attack wear and tear: is reduce the amount of throws or the intensity of the throws, basically program your throwing volume better with recovery in it. Also improve your mechanics, because you can put in too much stress on it. We can talk about that in your mechanics. And you're not physically fit. That bicep's fatiguing because it doesn't have the stamina or the strength to survive all the wear and tear. So if you attack it in those 3 ways, you can really better fix the problem. So like I said, programming your throwing, meaning like armcare.com has a great tool for that, testing your strength and range of motion, and gives you predictors of when your arm is too fatigued for throwing. So period, if your arm is too fatigued, you don't need to be throwing. You're 36 times more likely to have injury when you throw fatigue. So you got to make sure you're doing some type of tracking process like armcare.com to make sure you're not overthrowing or throwing too often in fatigue. Biomechanically, if you're really too rotational and you're fighting the centrifugal forces of your arm wanting to fly out, That's going to wear the bicep out. So getting more linear takes away a lot of the stress in the bicep. And the other thing is too, a lot of coaches say you shouldn't do curls and extensions. Yes, we call it arm farming. You should arm farm. Curls and extensions, along with all the other lifts in the body, are critical to keeping yourself strong. And that's all in the Top Velocity programs, guys. We have that all laid out through your whole career, all your seasons in the Top Velocity program. That was the last question. So if you haven't sent us a question, please post a question below, a great question that we want to get on the show and we want to answer. Also, share, like, subscribe, send this out to people that you think would enjoy it. We want to help the community of baseball, and we really appreciate you guys watching. We're going to do another long season of this, but we need your questions. We'll see you on the next episode.